Hello, and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and we're back. We're back streaming again. Yes, lovely to see a few of you guys here already. Hope you guys are doing pretty well. There is a lot to talk about today, but I think midfielders are the big topic of discussion. Everyone's been kind of talking about which midfielders to buy, which midfielders are the best ones to go for. There seems to be so many midfielders, and all of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. So today, I thought I'd try and figure out a way of best defining who is the best midfielders outside of kind of a lot of the ways people have been usually using, trying to define the best midfielders. And we're going to do things a little bit differently today. So I hope you guys enjoy. We put a bit of effort and preparation into this stream today. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good one. So yeah, thanks for joining. Hopefully a few of you guys can help me out with this matrix that I have devised. So yes, before we go any further, I did want to make a quick note on this game week, because I know so many people have been asking me about this already. So yeah, guys, the fixtures for Game Week 21 are along here. You can probably see along here. We've got all of the fixtures, and you might have noticed that the deadline has changed. Yes, it was originally going to be on Saturday, but it's actually changed. It's going to be 6:15 p.m. UK time on Friday, the 12th of January. So that's this Friday. That has changed. It's different from what it was before. And also, you might have noticed that we've got like loads of different days of fixtures. What's going on there? Well, put simply, it's a normal game week. It's not a double game week or anything like that. It's not a double game week. It's not a blank game week. It's nothing really extraordinary, but it is one game week split over the course of 2 weekends. And the reason the Premier League have done that is what they have done for the last couple of years to make sure that all of the teams get a little bit of a winter break, but by dividing half of the teams get a break here, the other half get a break here, it ensures that we still get to enjoy Premier League football on both weekends, but all of the teams still have a nice week break. So that's what's going on there. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. So with that said, shall we begin? Because I've been looking forward to this quite a lot, and getting started with this one really. So yeah, let's before we do anything else, let's set up this this matrix, and I'll show you exactly what it is and how it works. And hopefully you guys are gonna like this. I hope you do. So let's add a new window capture. Call it matrix. We're gonna call it a matrix because it is a matrix. And we need to find the risk versus reward matrix, which honestly, guys, it probably looks a bit crazy right now, but you're going to see very shortly. This is good stuff. This really is good stuff. Let's put it next to the bench list. Let's shrink it down a little bit more. Let's get this in the right shape and the right size. I possibly could have done this before starting the stream, to be honest, but you know, there's always a few last minute jobs to do before getting started. So yes, that will pretty much do. That looks pretty good there. Maybe up a little bit. All right, how about that? That looks pretty good. Hey, yeah, we're happy with that. Okay, so let me explain to you guys what you're seeing on screen right now, because I understand this might be a little bit confusing. So what we can see on the right hand side, I've got a bunch of popular midfielders. You guys have been letting me know, or in the YouTube comments, you've been letting me know on Twitter who your favourite midfielders to buy are for this game week, whether you're replacing Salah or Son or Kudus or Hee-chan, or, you know, some people even replacing midfielders who they just don't like. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these players on the right, and we're going to move them into position based on how good they are as an FPL pick. But a lot of people are kind of trying to look at this in a kind of in one dimension. Well, I guess one dimension. So one dimension, a single line. Wait, is that 2 dimensions or 1 dimension? I don't know. I guess I'm gonna say what, like, 1 dimension. So one individual line is this player a good pick or a bad pick? But I think there's more to it than that. And I think this is what we've seen a lot, because all of these different players have their advantages and disadvantages. So it's not just about how many points we think a player can get, but how risky they are as well. So you can see along one axis, we have the points potential. How many potential points can a player get? But we're going into another dimension, guys, because we're also looking at how risky is that player. So when we talk about points potential, I think you probably already understand what I mean by points potential. Is this player likely to get a lot of FPL points? I mean, that's what we care about. Is this a player who can get a lot of FPL points, right? So what our other axis is, along the bottom, is the risk. And I think the risk axis is a little bit harder to define. So risk can be, is this player likely to get game time? Is this player likely to get substituted off early? Is this player very, very low ownership? And not a lot of other people are going to own this player, so you are taking a risk by going in on this player on your own. Is this a player who is been very inconsistent in the past? Is this a player who is very, very expensive? You know, if you're investing more of your money in a certain player, you're taking more of a risk. So, like I say, the risk axis is more difficult to kind of define, I guess. But hopefully, hopefully it makes enough sense. I mean, we could put a million axes on this and try and define players by all kinds of different things. But I think it would be kind of a little bit too complicated by that point. So we're going to just go with the two axes. Axi? Who knows? Points potential and risk. So let's get started. I want you guys to help me out here as well. You guys watching live, please do feel free to chime in, help us out, try and figure out where each of these players go. And yeah, there is potential to maybe add some more players in as well. I could quickly whip up some more graphics to add some more players. Obviously, the players that I've got on the right who are not on the graph yet, they are in no particular order. I just put them on there randomly. We don't have to put them on in any particular order, but we are going to put them in on the graph now. So, Linus says this is like school. I know, this is school for FPL. School for FPL. So it's a good kind of school. It's the kind of school you want to go to. Attendance report, you guys are doing very well. You're all in attendance. That's a good start. Should we do a roll call? Should we do a roll call here? So let's get cracking. So first of all, Palmer is just the first player at the top there. Charlie Roberts, it says evening Dan, evening Charlie. Let's see, anyone else? It's CZ says Palmer, middle top right. I mean, I think Palmer is definitely in the top right kind of quadrant. Oh, one more thing before we start adding players. And this is kind of about how you're going to use this. How you're going to use this matrix. And it's going to be about what kind of a manager you are. What kind of an FPL manager you are. So if you're a kind of FPL manager who doesn't really like risk, then you're going to want players kind of obviously on the low risk side. If you don't mind your risk, but you want the points potential, then anywhere along the top you're going to like. So for me, as an FPL manager, I'm a kind of a risk-taking FPL manager. Yes, I obviously want the players in this kind of area. This kind of area, that side is the best players, and this kind of area is the worst players. So you want players still in the top right, but I don't really mind taking any players from up here as well. I don't mind taking a risk. But if you care more about, you know, being low risk, then obviously you want the players at the top right, but you also maybe along this kind of area around the right hand side, you don't mind those players either. So just something to think about how you're going to kind of possibly use this for your own benefit. Stathis says, Happy New Year, mate. Happy New Year, Stathis. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that, my friend. Hopefully your year is going very well so far. We're 8 days into the new year. Can you believe that? 2024. Right, let's get started. I'm keen to get cracking. And I know I've been waffling a lot, but it needs a little bit of explanation, I think, this what we've got here. So Palmer straight away. Wait, what have I done here? Palmer, you should be grouped. Are you grouped? What have I done? Right, Palmer. So there we go. Palmer. We know he is a low-risk player, so he's naturally going to be along this side. He's a player who's going to play pretty much every game. He's nailed on. He's on penalties, which is nice. He is high ownership. He fits in a lot of the criteria of a low-risk player. He's cheap as well, so you're not investing too much money. We know that he is a super low-risk player to go for. Easily going to be a player who is going to be along the right side of this matrix. But how high does he go? Well, his points potential is high. We've seen a few times he's got some nice scores. So he'll be along the right axis. I think he'll be somewhere around here. I don't think he's necessarily like a Salah or a Haaland kind of levels of points potential or anything like that. But he's pretty high. He's genuinely pretty high. So I'm going to put him here. I think the small risk is his inconsistency, so maybe that moves him slightly over here. But he is definitely a player we would put in that top right quadrant of players we like the look of. Easily a player who we very much like. Now, let's, as another example, I know a player who's going to go kind of in the opposite quadrant, and that's going to be Elise. He is, when I say high risk, I mean, there's no understatement. He is likely to be, missing from action for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Very, very much an injured player at the moment. So he is super high risk because he's not even going to play. His points potential is basically 0 because he's not going to play. So he could go right on the X. It's the perfect example of a player you do not want to buy right now. So he will go down there. So commiserations to anyone who's already bought Elise in. Hopefully most of the Elise buyers are on wildcards and you can rectify that situation because that is a mudded transfer. Not looking good. So he goes bottom left. Now, let's go through the popular ones first, I think, and then we'll go on to some of the less popular ones. So, guys, shout out if you want a particular player. Let me know. I will be reading the chat as we go through this. And we'll go for Bowen because I think Bowen is a player a lot of people are wanting to get this week. I mean, certainly before the injury. Injury. So, yes, guys, if you guys missed this, and maybe we can, should we maybe find, I don't really want to play the video clip on stream, to be honest, because, well, I don't want to get demonetized or my, the video or the stream get taken down. But, obviously, we did see a situation where, I guess we can just use this still photo someone's posted here. So, yeah, so this is a still photo. I guess we can use this from FPL Goldfish, who has put a picture of Bowen, who had a sort of an impact injury late in the game against Bristol City. And, yeah, he had to be helped off the pitch at the end of the game. So, there was an injury there. If I'm totally honest, am I worried about him? Not really. Like, Bowen recovers so fast, and West Ham's game, because of the way this game week is structured, you can see along the fixtures on the left-hand side of your screen, guys, you can see that West Ham don't actually play for basically 2 weeks. They really have got a while. I mean, what's that, 13 days until West Ham play? That is a long time. It's really not too much of a worry. A guy who recovers this fast is this important. An impact injury, look, I guess you never know for sure, but I'm not too worried. The difficulty is we're not going to get any more information pre-deadline. I mean, maybe we get training pictures. That's kind of the best we can hope for, is training pictures. That's pretty much it, though. That's the best we're going to get. So let's see what happens there. There is a degree of risk. He is a player who, if he was like not injured, well, not injured at all, and we got the press conference before deadline and everything like that, then Bowen no doubt would be up here. There's no doubt he would be up in that area. But because of that minor injury concern, and it is only minor, I think that moves him away from the right-hand side. I think that pushes him out over here a little bit. So, points potential is good. He's probably going to score. Maybe Palmer is a bit more explosive, but on balance, these two players probably score maybe a similar amount, which is kind of crazy since Bowen is much more expensive. But I would put Palmer and Bowen in a similar area, but Bowen just slightly riskier. I think I'm not too worried about him, but there is a degree of risk. And you have to acknowledge that if you're going to go for him. Right, let's throw in some more of the popular picks. Remember, guys, this is just midfielders. We're just doing midfielders today. So, yeah, I guess Gross is another really popular one at the moment. So, I think as a differential, he is risky. So the fact that he's a differential makes him a little bit risky. His minutes are secure, and his consistency has not necessarily been there. And he is a player who can go back to being a defensive midfielder or a right back at any given moment. Now, recently he has been playing as more of an attacking midfielder, but he spent a lot of time for Brighton, particularly under De Zerbi, playing as a defensive player. So there is a risk he goes back into that position. There is a risk that he's inconsistent, which we know. There's a risk that he's not going to be on penalties. If João Pedro is playing, there is a risk that, he's low ownership. So if you buy him and he blanks and the popular picks do well, then you'll kind of suffer in that way. So his minutes are safe, but there are lots of other reasons why he is actually a little bit risky. His points potential is not the same as Bowen. It's not the same as Palmer, but it's fairly decent. So for that reason, I think Pascal Gross goes somewhere around here. Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But please do tell me. Anurag says, Happy New Year, man. Happy New Year to you as well, Anurag. We'll have to start Slanky versus Paul. That's no problem. Have Trippier, Livramento, Archer on the bench with just one free transfer. -4 just to replace Salah and Son. Not looking good. Honestly, man, like loads of people will be in the same situation. Lots of people will be in exactly the same situation, to be honest. So don't worry about it too much. I think starting Solanke versus Liverpool is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So that's no problem. Let's just see what happens. You don't even have to replace both Salah and Son if you don't want to. That's something that should be noted, guys. You don't have to replace both Salah and Son. If you can upgrade your, like in Anurag's situation, if you upgrade Archer, you can just bench one of Salah or Son for a few game weeks. Might not be such a bad idea. Right, moving on. A few of you guys want to see Jota on there. Like, no doubt, he's been super popular. Now, his points potential for me is higher than anyone so far on this list. But his risk level is also there. I would say he is probably, outside of Elise, who is just, straight up, like, silly transfer move. I would say Diogo Jota is the most risky. For a couple of reasons. One, he's a little bit expensive. Two, we don't know that he's nailed. He didn't start against Arsenal. Three, as soon as Salah comes back, Diogo Jota's starting position comes into question. We know that. He's going to be a player he's not going to be a nailed-on starter. Even if you think he's a nailed-on starter now, which I don't, he's close to being one, but he's not 100% nailed on. Soon, within a few game weeks' time, it's not going to be the case anymore. But man, is he a good player. Like, wow. He really is a special talent. So, his points potential, in terms of the players on this list, are, for me, very, very high. I'm going to put him in, again, he is in the top right quadrant, but he drifts further over to the risk for me. So, how about that? Something weird happening with the graphics when I'm moving them, by the way. Sorry, I can only see one thing at a time. Let's, Oh, I see. Is it when I drag things off? If I move too fast, Twitter flicks on. That's weird. I don't know what's happening there, guys, to be honest. Is it when it's trying to figure out where things go? I have no idea why that's happening. I do apologize. I'll see if I can figure that one out next time. Right, okay, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. So, Diogo Jota, you guys think he can move perhaps a little bit further to the left? I possibly agree, but he is definitely a player who is, top. He's along the top somewhere, right? And I still think he's in the top right quadrant. Still think he is up there. Right, who should we do next? I want to do KDB next. I really want to do KDB. So many people have been talking about KDB recently. It's absolutely crazy how much hype this guy's getting at the moment. But, I mean, he's De Bruyne. Like, we know he's one of the best football players. In world football, he is, isn't he? So, this is a really interesting one with De Bruyne. So, I do want to highlight something before we go any further. And I'm just going to try and find this. Right, okay, here we go. I found the quote. So, let's get rid of the matrix for a second. So this is a quote from De Bruyne, who says, "I don't expect to be playing too many Man City games, and Newcastle next week is a big game, so I'll expect to be back on the bench. I want to play every game, but I know in the back of my mind, I need to take care of myself." So I'm sure a lot of people buying De Bruyne who have already bought De Bruyne. I mean, like, by the way, guys, if you're making early transfers, if you're making transfers like too early because you're chasing price changes or whatever, it's fine to do that. But when you then find out information that a player's got injured or a player's not as available as you thought they were, you know, you kind of got to suck it up. You do have to kind of suck it up. You make a decision. You either go early on a transfer and sacrifice extra information, or you sacrifice, budget by, perhaps buying players at a higher price, but you have all of the information. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. I always prefer to wait later on. I think information is more important than team value, but different people are going to have different opinions on that one. But if you bought De Bruyne already, this is not the best news. This is not the best news. Now, going back to the Matrix, straight away, we know that De Bruyne is going to be along the top. We know he's going to be along the top. However, he's literally saying, I think I'm going to be on the bench this game week. He's literally saying, I think I'm going to be eased in. He is, no doubt, one of the riskier players on this matrix. He is probably somewhere over there. Now, if you're a risk taker, then maybe that doesn't bother you too much. Maybe you're like, okay, fine, like, yeah, it's a risky player. He's literally said that he thinks he's going to be on the bench. I mean, if you can't believe the player themselves, then I don't know what else you're going to believe there. But yeah, I know people are going to want to see De Bruyne in that top right quadrant. He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there. If you jumped on KDB early and you want to see him as a super low risk pick, he's not that. He is just not that. He is high points potential, high reward. For sure he is that. But he is risky. He is possibly the definition of a risky pick right now. So I think he will get game time, but I think there'll be rotation. I think he'll be eased in. Maybe plays every other game. Maybe get some one-pointers from the bench. It is super risky. Let's throw in Foden whilst we're on the topic of Man City. And a similar situation with De Bruyne potentially getting some minutes now. Where does Foden play? I mean, Doku, Grealish, Bernardo Silva and Foden, all available wingers for Man City. Behind the striker, it's going to be one of De Bruyne, Foden, Alvarez. People have said this before. Foden is going to be nailed on. Guys, have you seen how well Foden's been playing? He's got to be nailed on now. Surely he's not going to get benched now. But then we remember he plays for Man City and his manager's Pep Guardiola. And all of that goes out the window. Foden is a risk. Whether you like it or not, he is a risky player. The points potential are nice. I think he is safer than De Bruyne at this moment. And particularly some of the De Bruyne comments have made Foden more interesting. But I do think he's a risky guy. Is he got as much points potential as De Bruyne and Diogo Jota? Probably not. Maybe more than Bowen and Palmer. Maybe something similar. I think I would put him in this region. I think I put him in that region there. Let me know if you think that's about right. Yeah, Scott says, Dan, just to confirm, is this ranking based on transferring in this week or just in general? I mean, really, we're talking about, Salah and Son and Kudus and He-Chan replacements. So if that's the case, I guess we're talking this week, really. I mean, obviously, we do have to take longer term into a little bit of consideration. But really, we are talking about moves that you would be making this week. So, okay, is Foden, roughly there? Some people say same as Jota. All right, same risk level as Jota, but do you think maybe Jota has slightly more points potential? So therefore, is Jota a better pick than Foden? Interesting. Jota more risky, you reckon? I don't know. No, I think that's honestly, I think Foden is gonna get less game time than Jota. I think Jota has more points potential. Honestly, I genuinely do think. I think Jota is a better pick than Foden. I get what you mean. Maybe there's not a huge difference in their points potential. Maybe we bring Jota down a little bit just so KDB is a little bit higher, because obviously KDB's potential is huge, right? But I think Foden is going to be, not quite as good as Jota's pick. I think that's about right. Right, let's continue on. Balls Deep says, Dan, this format is so subjective. There'll be so many arguments here, but it's a cracking format, mate. Hey, it's a bit of fun if nothing else. But yeah, definitely, of course, it's subjective. But let's see what we can do with what we've got. Right, let's smack some players on that we like. So let's go Richarlison, another popular pick. So Richarlison, I think, has a degree of risk. In the short term, Richarlison is safe, but in the slightly longer term, Richarlison is going to be riskier because of that Timo Werner signing. Obviously, we have Son and Maddison are going to be coming back soon as well. Brennan Johnson's, probably going to play just as many games as Richarlison in the longer term. So Richarlison short term, I think, is a decent pick. The risk, I think, as well, is that he is a player who doesn't have great fixtures. So I'm going to put Richarlison, I think here, as a player who is slightly safer than Jota and Foden, particularly at that slightly cheaper price. I don't think he has quite as much points potential as Jota, but he does still have a decent amount of points potential. I'd say he has more points potential than Foden, perhaps. So yeah, somewhere around there, I think would be nice. I think that's pretty good. Let's continue on. I want to get rid of some of these really popular players, and then we can whiz through some of the less popular players towards the end. Your differentials, if you like. So Saka. So Saka is low risk. High owned. Maybe his price tag is the one thing that's risky about him. But he's high owned. He is usually a pretty consistent returning asset, but he's not been in great form. And, he is expensive. So I think the points potential is not quite there, the same as maybe some other players with Saka at the moment. I don't think we should write off Saka completely. I'd say he is one of the players further towards the low risk. I mean, I'm going to put Palmer actually closer to this side, really. Is Saka similar kind of risk to Palmer? Maybe because of that more expensive, because he's more expensive. Saka is slightly more risky. But at the points potential, is it there right now? I don't know if it is. I don't think you can write off Saka. But I don't think the points potential are the same with him as it is right now with the likes of Palmer and Bowen. His underlying numbers are pretty good, but I don't know. Saka is a tough one. So I'm going to leave him there for now. And I think that probably rounds up all of the really popular picks. Let's go for some differentials now. So, right. Bulls D says Saka needs to be high points. Really? When have we seen Saka get high points? I mean, he's been consistent, but he's never been, explosive, really. We've got to do this on form to a degree. Saka is high risk. Arsenal have been poor recently, but where is the risk? There's no risk in buying Saka. You can't really lose out by going with Saka. What you're talking about is points potential. The poor form corresponds to points potential, but as a risk, there is really no risk of going for Saka. Pretty much everyone has Saka anyway. He is a player who usually ticks along with some points. There's no real risk in going for Saka. The only risk is, the money you spend on him. But if everyone else is doing it, I don't really see where the risk is. There's just not really very much points potential. Or at least not as much as there has been historically. I still think there's more points potential with Saka than there is with Pascal Gross, to be perfectly honest. So I think, around there, he's fine. Everyone owns him. He's never going to get dropped, never going to get rotated, potentially on penalties. He's just a low-risk player in general. Right, let's let's continue on. Fab BCN says, how can Richarlison score more points than Bowen, Foden or Palmer? Well, I mean, to answer your question, Richarlison has scored more points than Bowen, Foden and Palmer over the last 4 or 5 game weeks, hasn't he? Richarlison's been on crazy goal scoring form. Has he scored like, was it 5 goals in 5 games? Nuts. Really, really solid stuff. I mean, that's the stuff of dreams when we're talking about FPL midfielders. A goal per game. Incredible. Anyway. We've got some, I guess, some differentials. So let's do Bruno. So Bruno is risky because you don't know what you're going to get from him. Not being consistent. He is nailed, though. But he's low-owned, inconsistent, and expensive. And I think the fact that he's low-owned, inconsistent, and expensive outweighs the fact that he's nailed on. Penalties is good. The points potential is, I think, always going to be roughly there. He has potential, but the form has just not been great. So I think, if we're honest, Bruno is, I wouldn't say he's a super risky pick other than the fact that he's a differential. He perhaps goes somewhere like, can we honestly say that Bruno's form has been better than Saka? And therefore his points potential is more than Saka? I don't think we can. So, is Bruno kind of like the bang in the middle kind of player? Risky because he's a differential and quite expensive and inconsistent. I think maybe he just sits around the middle there. And I think you possibly put Ødegaard in a similar position. Adam says, I don't agree with Elise. Well, that's fair enough, but he's injured. So if we're going to put an injured player anywhere, it's going to be bottom left, right? Ødegaard. Maybe similar. I don't think he's... To be honest, I think Bruno's points potential is maybe even higher than Ødegaard's. Ødegaard's more expensive as well. Ødegaard's safer for minutes. Or is he safer for minutes? I mean, possibly. I think Arsenal perhaps been in better form than Manchester United, which is really saying something. It's difficult. I think for Ødegaard, I think I'd slightly prefer Bruno. And Ødegaard's maybe just as much as a differential. Maybe a few more people own Ødegaard than Bruno, don't they? Probably. You don't get penalties from Ødegaard. I think his points potential is lower, but I think he's maybe a little bit safer. So I'm going to put Ødegaard there next to Bruno. So I think Bruno's points potential is higher than Ødegaard's, but Ødegaard's maybe slightly less risky. Hella NG Music says, look at Bruno's underlying stats. I have looked at them. I looked at them today. I thought they were actually, pretty disappointing. Like, I say pretty disappointing. They're fine. Bruno's underlying numbers are fine, but when you compare them to some of these other players, it's not really been there, has it? It's not really been there. Right, we can wang some more players in. So, Neto is obviously a risky pick with his injury record, only just coming back from injury. But I think he has a decent amount of points potential. I think Neto, and, it's a bit cheaper, so you can't expect him to be too crazy high. Let's put him... He's not as good as a pick as Palmer, is he? If we're totally honest. And he's more risky. Neto maybe somewhere there. Garnacho, points potential... by the way, tell me if I'm very, very wrong. Please tell me. Garnacho, points potential is probably not as high as anyone else on this list. But he's pretty safe. He's cheap. His ownership is building. You can bench him whenever you like. He's a pretty safe player to go for. But he's probably got the lowest points potential of anyone on this graph so far. I would say. Right. Of course, says 808 watching. Drop a like, chat. Oh yeah, please, chat. Please drop a like. Please drop a like. That really would be helpful. Neto lower than Saka on points too. Do you think so? All right, fine. I'm not going to argue too much with that, to be honest. I'll at least put him even. So, yeah, okay, there. Neto's maybe not as risky as I'm saying he is, though. I don't know. He's like somewhere here, right? I think he's got slightly more points potential than Bruno, though. But maybe with slightly more risk. Right. Continuing on. Where were we? Right, let's just do Leon Bailey. super rotation risk, as we know. Maybe we can put Diaby in a similar place. I think Bailey's potential is a little bit, Diaby's more risky than Bailey right now. Points potential wise, these guys are probably on the lower side though, aren't they? So maybe Bailey, slightly less risky, slightly more points potential. These are not going to be particularly good picks, I don't think. But I think, yeah, they certainly could compete with the likes of Ødegaard for points, I think. Maybe even Neto. I think they will be somewhere around there. But they're just so risky. It's arguably not even worth it. So, yeah, they're probably going to be towards the bad end of the graph, I guess. The bottom left being the bad end. Moving on. Douglas Luiz, low risk. Points potential, is it higher than Garnacho? Maybe. Is it higher than Pascal Gross? Maybe not. Douglas Luiz probably goes somewhere here. You know, you're just you're super safe, cheap player. Going to play every game, penalties, set pieces, but not necessarily massively explosive as an FPL asset. And you will be depending on a bit of luck. But he has a lot of those safety factors that I think are good. So we'll put him alongside that. And I do think he has got slightly more points potential than someone like Garnacho. Maybe less than Gross, though. But, you know, most of these players, I would say, have more higher points potential than Douglas Luiz. Moving on. Let's do Morgan Gibbs-White. I'm not really sure I like this pick, to be honest. I don't think he's 100% nailed on. But he should be mostly nailed on, right? But super differential. Hasn't really shown any consistency this season. Is he on penalties? I guess. He's probably on penalties, we would say. He would be he would definitely be in the red zone, I would say. He is risky. A really risky pick. And I think Garnacho scores more points than him as well. So let's put him there. Right. Moving on. Eze, risky, but I do think he has points potential. Like maybe as much as Bruno Fernandes. Like just in terms of points potential, but probably riskier. Or am I being harsh on him? Maybe he's even better than that. I'm gonna throw him in here. I'm gonna just move you guys out the way a little bit. Maybe I'm being a little bit too fence city, putting these players too close together. I think Eze is somewhere around there. Kind of like him as a pick. I think he's got just as much, around as much potential as Neto or Bruno, but he does have a little bit more risk. Luis Diaz. I want to do you. I don't want to do Luis Diaz. Obviously scored against Arsenal in the FA Cup. I think he is safer than Jota, but I think his points potential is lower. I think his points potential is even potentially lower than Palmer. I think Luis Diaz probably sits around there. So still in the kind of green quadrant, but maybe not as high points potential as the likes of Bowen, Richarlison, Jota, Foden, KDB. Moving on. Why is Eze risky? Because he's low ownership, injury prone, inconsistent, plays for a weaker team that doesn't score too many goals with fairly difficult fixtures. There's a few reasons why it's quite risky, to be fair. Yeah, he is a risky player. But like I say, he does have some potential. If you don't mind taking a risk, then you're probably not too fussed about those kind of players. Like I was saying earlier on my earring is in the wrong place. Hang on, I need to fix this situation. Like I was saying earlier, how you kind of look at and interpret this table of my opinions is entirely depending on what kind of FPL manager you are. If you don't mind a risk, but you like a player of high points potential, but you don't mind taking a risk, then some of these players kind of towards the left, that it's not really going to bother you. You'll be fine with picking players from the left-hand side. Alternatively, if you hate taking risks, then you're probably only going to pick players from the right-hand side right hand side of this graph, which is fine too. For me personally, I would lean more towards the top half than I would the right half, because I like taking risks, and I'm safe players bore me a little bit. But anyway, moving on. Gordon. Points potential is lower than it has been in the past. He's still fairly high owned. I don't know. I don't know what to... Just the bad form of Newcastle probably puts Gordon lower than Saka on points potential. I don't think he's completely risky, really. He might get rotated a little bit. I think people will be moving away from Gordon, to be honest, though. So he's going to be kind of, I guess, in the yellow zone of players who are okay. You know, if you have Gordon, you could keep him, but you probably acknowledge that there's better options right now. So he's not a bad pick, necessarily. I'd certainly be more inclined... I'd feel more confident in a Gordon than I maybe would be with a Bailey or a Diaby, for example. Or even a Morgan Gibbs-White. So, yeah, let's throw him in there. And Kulusevski, safe. Safe, fairly safe. Reasonably well priced. But points potential is sadly just not as high as many of these other players. I mean, is it similar to Saka, or would you put him even lower than Saka? There's argument to put him lower than Saka, to be honest. But he's safer than the likes of... I think he's safer than the likes of Gordon, maybe. So I think I put Kulusevski there. Are we done? That's not bad, right? He's probably near enough now. He's not 100% nailed, though. Particularly when everyone comes back. For now, he's probably 100% nailed, but in the future, maybe not so much. I think we're gonna go with that. I think we're roughly in the right area with this. And I think what I've noticed when making this is a very clear pattern. And the pattern... Can we like insert some kind of line? Insert a line. So let's make this line, I don't know, look like this. Let's make it a bit thicker. Loads thicker. So there is a line of players from here to here. And Chandra, member for 22 months, by the way. That's crazy. Thank you so much. There's a line here of players. You can see Jota, Richarlison, Bowen, Luis Diaz, Saka. The only player beyond that line is Palmer. And I think we probably all agree that Palmer is, you know, in FPL terms, just like the best pick. He's safe, he's cheap, he's reliable, he's got decent points potential. He's just the best pick. If you don't have Palmer, buy Palmer. Pretty straightforward. But outside of that, I see this line of midfielders, which basically is on its own axis of risk versus points potential, but pretty much in a line. So the riskier the player, the higher the points potential they have. The more points potential they have. So Jota is high risk, high reward. Richarlison is kind of high risk, high reward. Bowen is kind of balanced. Luis Diaz is slightly safer with slightly less reward. Saka, safest of the lot, but with the lowest reward. So we have this line, and I think for a lot of you guys, if you're looking for that Salah or Son replacement, maybe one of these 5 players is going to be the guy. You've got your riskier picks towards the Jota end. You've got your safer picks towards Saka. So you basically look at this and you say, how much risk do I want to take? If I want to be somewhere in the middle, Bowen. If I want to be safe, Saka. If I want to go all out, Diogo Jota. If I want to go somewhere in between, Richarlison, Luis Diaz. I think that's probably where I would be going. I mean, you could maybe include Foden in that conversation as well. On the riskier end of the spectrum. If you want to take even more of a risk, then yeah, Foden is there on the kind of risky end as well. But I think that's actually kind of useful to kind of look at it that way. The more risk you want to take, you go for someone around the Jota area. The safer you want to be. I mean, maybe we can add some like... Should we add some like shapes? We're going to rectangle. Let's do no fill border. Let's put a line border on. So let's say no fill. So we have like the risk takers area. What am I doing? The risk takers area is like here. So if you're a risk taker, oh, what have I done? If you're a risk taker, these are the kind of players you're going to be picking. Somewhere, maybe somewhere around here. So that is for risk takers. Can I add a title? Risk taker. And you can't really see that, but hopefully you guys get the idea. We'll remove the title. And then let's add another like shape, another rectangle in here. And let's look for like your safe picks. So we'll go green for this one. So if you're more of a safe kind of manager, you perhaps go somewhere like here, one of these players maybe. And if you are a, I don't know, how do I put this lightly? If you are a kind of, I would say like a bad FPL manager, you go here. So if you're just a bad FPL manager, just pick an injured player. And I think that works out pretty well for you. But yeah, I'd say, you know, that's your risk takers corner. I mean, we could maybe extend this a little bit further. There's your safe players corner. If you're somewhere in between being a risk taker and a safe player, you know, we're probably looking at the likes of Bowen, Bruno, Gordon. Although, to be honest, we probably shouldn't extend quite that much. But yeah, right, cool. You get the idea, guys. You get the idea. Let's wrap it up. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Let's take a screenshot. And we'll perhaps post that to Twitter and see what you guys think. Of course, it is all very, very subjective, of course. And I'm sure you guys have your own opinions. But, I mean, I think we're roughly right. And maybe I'll even share this so you guys can have a go using this yourself. If you guys want to have a go yourself. If you'd be interested, let me know. And I will make this public. Right. Let's finish off with some questions. Let's just do random questions to finish us off today, guys. There's not really anything else I had in mind to talk about today. I mean, we can maybe do captaincy a little bit. I don't really know who the best captains are this week, to be honest. I guess we can have a look on the points predictor on Fantasy Football Hub for this game week. Who's got like the best points predicted for this week? It's actually Saka, Palmer, Tony. Hey, by the way, guys, I really like Tony as a forward transfer. I really like this one. He's definitely fallen into the risky end because he's so low owned. But man, yeah, I like him. I really do like him as a pick. I'd be going straight back. If I was trying to replace a forward right now, Tony would be where I would be going for. He would be where I would be going for. So yeah. Let's look who else through here. Like Bruno Fernandes, Raheem Sterling, Pascal Gross. Potential there against Wolves. Obviously his numbers have been good recently, Gross. Odegaard, Gordon, Trent against Bournemouth. I don't know. You do feel like Solanke has a goal in him though. Watkins, Bowen. Bowen obviously a little bit lower due to that potential injury that he might have. Purpose of Stupinian is kind of nice to see him up there. Dom Solanke, Alexander Isak. Crazy. Yeah, it's a weird game week for predicted points. I really don't know how to call it. I mean, who are you guys captaining? Should we maybe do a poll? Start a poll. Actually, like, first of all, guys, like, let me know in the chat who you're captaining, and then we'll make a poll based on those players. Anyway, Balls Deep says, question, Dan, if you had Darwin Punez, would you keep or hold? I would consider moving him to... I mean, it depends. Like, what's your plan to get Haaland back? If you haven't got a plan to get Haaland back, I'd maybe hold on to Darwin for one more week and then bring in Haaland for Darwin in game week 22. I think that's a possibility there. We could do it straight away this week if you want to. Aaron says, do you think Jota starts? How many game? How many goal involvements do you think he'll have compared to Foden versus Newcastle? I mean, I think Jota has higher points potential than Foden. They're probably roughly about as risky as one another, though, in terms of minutes. I think Jota will start Game Week 21, yeah. But I also think Foden will start in Game Week 21 as well. I think after that, it goes a little bit crazier, particularly for Foden. But anyway. Jandro says, you reckon Jota gets enough minutes to outscore the likes of Richarlison and Bowen? It's a risk. I think there is every chance of that happening. Bradley says, got Elise in my team. Top 25k in the world. It must be a really bad manager. There are very good managers with bad ranks. There's very bad managers with good ranks. So let's not say Game Week 20 ranks are the definition of a good manager. No, of course, Bradley, if you bought Elise previously and he got injured and you're just unlucky, then fair enough. But I mean, I have to say, the point I was making is if you buy Elise now, knowing that he's injured, it's not exactly the smartest decision in FPL. I didn't think that would be that controversial, but of course, this is the internet. Bullsleeve says, Dan, I still have Haaland. Okay, in that case, I would probably move Darwin to Tony if you have no other priority moves. I really do like the Tony move. Really do. You guys are on some crazy captain decisions, but I mean, every captain decision I think is crazy this week. I'm curious to see what the experts will say on Wednesday's video. I really am. Right, let's make a quick poll then. I think most people for captaincy are saying Saka, Palmer, and Jota. That sounds Saka, Palmer, and Jota. It doesn't sound right, does it? But I mean, that's what you got. I don't even know what to say. Start poll. Who is your Game Week 21 captain right now? I guess we'll put in Saka, Palmer. I don't even feel confident putting Jota in. People really... I mean, a few people are saying Trent. Bowen as well. All right, let's put Saka, Palmer, and Bowen, and then other. Let's see what you guys reckon. Let's see what you guys are saying on that poll. I think other is probably going to beat everyone, though, because there's just so many options this week, right? So many options. But I think Palmer, because he scored lots of points last game week, that often means he'll be captain the following game week, right? Anyway, would you get rid of Watkins for Tony? I don't think I would, no. Jam Toasty says, no Salah, Son, Haaland, risky. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's a weird week for captain, right? Tom says Richarlison captain. Zorgi says, anyone captain Trent Alexander-Arnold is weird. Like, get real. I don't know, Trent has been good recently. Come on. Trent has been good recently. Let's credit where credit's due. Things change fast in FPL. We need to move with the times. For example, Tony probably didn't have very much points potential last game week, but he will do in the future. Things change. Palmer is good with fixture and in form. Makes sense. I get it. Michael says Isak to Tony. I don't mind that transfer. But again, like Darwin and Isak, they're not players you would ideally have in your team. But I don't think they're must-sells necessarily. But I would be lying if I said I didn't like the Tony move. I really, really do like it. I really, really do like the Tony move. So Bowen is fit? Not necessarily. I think probably. Jandro says, that comment sounds like Dan got Trent. I haven't got Trent. I haven't got Trent at all. You can see my team if you don't believe me. I'll just do a refresh just so you know for sure. I haven't made any transfers yet. But I tell you what, Trent is very much on the menu. I mean, looking like early thoughts on transfers is that basically I'd remove... I mean, it'll be Salah and I'll replace him with a midfielder and then Trippier will go to Trent. So it'd be like... I need to put Alexander-Arnold down. So it'd be Alexander-Arnold in here. And then... But I also need to make sure I can afford Haaland here. So I've got 8.3 to spend. So I'm going to upgrade Mubama next week to Haaland when he's available. So I've got 8.3 to spend on a midfielder. 8.3 was it? Something like that. 8.2 maybe, just to be safe. And yeah, I think Bowen would have been my choice, but I think another factor with Bowen is the lack of Paqueta. If Paqueta is injured as well, if Paqueta is injured and Bowen is not 100%, well, not 100% guaranteed, I think that gives you, if you are someone who is inclined to go a little bit different, away from template, then I think that is certainly going to be enough of an excuse to go for someone a little bit different from template. It's certainly enough of an excuse for me where I probably most likely will not be going for Bowen this week. I think there's enough reasons to take a risk and bet against him. I find that fun anyway. So, FPL's meant to be fun at the end of the day. Can't go for Richarlison, obviously. So going back to my matrix, as a risky manager, I'm looking really in slightly riskier players than Bowen, which is Jota, can't get Richarlison, and Foden. I think Jota's slightly better pick than Foden, so it would be something like that. Double up on Liverpool. I mean, they're like the informed team of the Premier League, so no issue there with bringing in 2 Liverpool players. Potential double game week for Liverpool in game week 25 as well. I mean, man alive. That is it's 2 free transfers as well, by the way, guys. So 2 free transfers, Trippier and Salah out for Alexander-Arnold and Jota. That gives me a full 4-4-2. A full 4-4-2. But I don't mind it, to be honest. And we could just upgrade Mubama to Haaland the following game week, and that brings me back to a 3-4-3, which is pretty nice. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Harry says, doesn't Bowen have 2 weeks to recover? Yeah, he does. I think he's going to be fine. I'm not too worried. I think he's going to be okay. FPL Freddy says McAllister or Darwin probably be on penalties. That's a good point about McAllister, actually. I'd always assumed that Darwin would be on penalties because I've seen him take a few already for Liverpool this season when Salah's been off the pitch, but I didn't really consider... I didn't actually check if McAllister was on the pitch during those. So I do wonder if McAllister will take penalties ahead of Darwin. I'm not sure. I mean, Darwin's penalty record is fine. For everything you say about Darwin, his penalty's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it. Jota is 8.3. No, Jota's 7.8. So he fits nicely in the budget, nicely within the price. You will need Trippier back in game week 23. Will I need anything from Newcastle back ever? I guess that remains to be seen. I mean, to be fair, Liverpool could be blanking pretty soon. What is it? They could be blanking in game week... Is it game week 26? So, possibly. I can't remember. I don't want to say anything that I'm not 100% confident in, so I won't say when Liverpool are blanking, but they can have a blank game week at some point if they keep moving forward through in the cup competitions. Jandre says, Darwin never missed a penalty, 12 out of 12. Hey, there you go. Glyn says, Salah to Jota and bench Son. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think I'm just going to keep Son on the bench. I would lose 0.4 million if I sold him. Salah, how much would I lose? I'd lose 0.4 million. But it would help me I can afford more things if I sell Salah. So I think that's the only difference. The big difference for me. Oh, what am I doing? Diogo. So yeah, I lose the same amount of money whether I sell Son or Salah. I would like to keep one of them ideally, so I don't lose too much team value. And I think I can do that. And then I'll be looking to get, obviously, Salah back in at some point. And the way I do that is I would be selling Saka and probably Alvarez or Watkins. It depends where I am with my forwards later down the line, because I don't know if I'm going to be keeping Alvarez long-term either, to be fair. And I'll be replacing Saka and one of Alvarez or Watkins or whatever other forward I have at the time to bring Salah back in whenever that is going to be happening. 26 is League Cup final. Well, there you go then. There we have it. So we're gonna have a few blanks in game week 26, which we know already. I do. Oh, by the way, guys, because of the long time between game weeks. Again, it's like 2 weeks between the start of game week 21 and the start of game week 22. I'm going to have a little bit more time again, so I'm going to try and do some videos. I'm going to try and figure out like all of the odds of different things happening, like double game weeks, who's likely to have double game weeks. We can maybe start thinking about chip strategies, but I want to get the full picture, and we'll get the FA Cup draws tonight, which might give us a better idea of who's likely to go further in the competition, who isn't. So we'll try and next week after game week 21 deadline passes, we'll try and do some real strategy, double game weeks, blank game weeks, that kind of stuff, and put it into a video. Hopefully, make something that's quite easy to understand. Adrian says, "Hi Dan, quick question: If I will wildcard, the team value will reset." No. Your team value is not reset by wildcards. Don't worry about that. Jandro says, thoughts on Estupinian? Yep, I like him as a pick a lot. Although I do understand that Brighton might be signing a new backup left back. That's the only minor thing there that might be worth considering. But I do really like Estupinian. You'll never walk alone, Anchor, says Van Dijk or Trippier on a wild card. Can't afford Trent. Neither of them are adequate replacements for Trent. If you can't afford Trent, find out a way of affording Trent. Linus on the super chat says best 3 forwards to own right now. Aye. Right now, or like in general? Because if I could own any forwards right now, I would still probably have Haaland in my team. If I was on a wild card, I would have Haaland. But I don't think he's going to start in game week 21. But I would have him. So we'll discount him anyway. And I will say Tony is my second favourite forward right now. I know, crazy. Tony, Watkins, Solanke. I like them. I think I would say them. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go for. But obviously, like I say, Haaland would be a player I would include in my in a wildcard team. Even if I bench him this game week, just to have him ready to go. Ready to go. Right, guys. Shall we call it there? Should we call it there? We've been going for an hour. I don't want this to be too long because I know a lot of people watch this on the replay. And replay enjoyers, I do love and respect you guys very much. And I would not ever want you to be bored of the FPL content. I think we've gone through a lot of stuff today, guys. But if you do have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And as well, do let me know what you thought about doing like what we did today. Like, you know, going through and doing some live interactive graphics that I've obviously made up earlier today. Because it did take a little while. Probably it did take a couple of hours to make this. So if you guys like it, I'll do it again. If you're like, I'll take it or leave it, then perhaps we won't. Like, yeah, always trying to look for new ways of trying to do content and innovate where we can to try and make sure we're staying ahead of the game. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you do drop a like, do subscribe if you haven't done already. Replay watchers and live watchers. If you have any more questions, drop them in the comments. I'm free for a couple of hours this evening to potentially answer some of them. So yeah, no problem. Or maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back for Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, which I'm looking forward to getting stuck in on that one and talking about Tony a little bit more. So there's a sneak preview for you guys. Tony is going to be the buy for game week 21 in the forward slot. And yeah, then we'll do obviously the normal videos. So it'll be 100 experts on Wednesday, team selection on Thursday, deadline day on Friday. Good stuff. So yeah, also we did our tier list video yesterday, which actually gave me the inspiration for this video because I didn't think that the tier list quite did justice for the midfielders in that video. But if you want to, you still want to watch it, go ahead. That was uploaded yesterday. Day before that was differentials, and we dropped a wildcard draft as well, if you want to see that. So loads of stuff on the channel. Loads of stuff to come on the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys. I will stop waffling on finally now, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.